Hi, welcome to today's D&H TV broadcast. I'm Keith Quinlan, Senior Vendor Business Manager at D&H. Today we're here to talk about your opportunity with esports in K-12. With me today, I have Matt Wood, our Components Vendor Business Manager at D&H, and Jason Kirby, President and COO of High School Esports League. Thanks for being with us today. Feel free to submit questions throughout the broadcast, and we'll be happy to answer them for you during the Q&A portion of the presentation. And without further ado, take it away, Jason.
Hi, everyone. This is Jason with High School Esports League, also known as HSEL. And I want to walk you guys through what esports is all about, is specifically targeting the K-12 market and what it means to schools, what it means to the students, and what it means to you guys from the ability to upsell a new opportunity into schools, new equipment and new software. So before we get into everything, I think it's always important to kind of go through a high-level overview of what is esports. And esports is essentially organized competitive video games. And it is a massively blown up industry right now. Gaming as a whole is over $150 billion with some record CAGRs, growth rates, and employing hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. alone, as well as many more across the world. Specifically targeting people with STEM backgrounds, and it's a high demand, fast growing space that is rivaling, or the viewership is rivaling that of traditional sports like football and baseball. So it's an exciting market. Lots of eyes are on it, and we have the professional kind of market. We have the collegiate market that's growing faster and faster. And now those need feeders, and that's why high schools have become really popular, not just from the competitive element, but also various other benefits that we're going to walk through today. And we'll start off with kind of the overall benefits of what esports is to high schools. And some interesting stats that I want to share with you is, number one, this gives schools the opportunity to harness a pre-existing passion of students. Saying that 75% of students already are passionate about video games and participating in them in some way, shape, or form, it's a great medium to engage those students. Also, of our students on our platform, we have over 80% never participated in anything else, any other extracurricular activities, tapping into kind of a market that's kind of forgotten and not necessarily attended to, and getting kids involved in extracurricular activities, which we already know has a massive impact on the performance of students in schools from grades and attendance. Which leads me to academic performance. With our studies that we've shown, kids that participate in our curriculum and in our programs see an increase of almost up to 1.7 in their GPA, as well as their overall attendance in class and school goes up 10%. So very exciting numbers that the schools love to see. And also unlocks college and career opportunities, both with the STEM aspect to esports, but also the fact that $16 million are distributed in scholarships alone, specifically for esports players. So really awesome benefits to high schools. And it's also what makes esports different than other sports is the inclusiveness. This brings in kids that might not be able to play terrestrial sports like football or baseball. It also brings different types of athletes into the same room competing with each other. It brings cross-gender lines from boys and girls, not just boys team, girl team, but boys and girls competing together as one team, one unit. Learning to establish those types of norms and behaviors at a much earlier age, as opposed to segregating them into different sports, because it doesn't matter what your gender is when it comes to esports. It's also engaging the unengaged. As I previously mentioned, 80% of our participants never participate in any other programs. We're tapping into an audience that's often neglected, and when you engage those students, their grades go up, their performance go up, their relationships improve, and so on. And a convenience factor is that most of the competitions are online, giving you a broader reach of competitiveness and opportunities, and also taps into the hardware component, which we'll touch on a little bit later in this presentation. And then why schools should offer esports, if the reasons aren't clear enough to this point, is the stats are proven to increase attendance, GPA, and overall student engagement, which I've emphasized. The school has full control over what games can be played, when they can be played. There's a lot of flexibility when partnering with us to be able to compete with other schools and being able to offer games that they might deem appropriate for their school's needs. And we can talk more about some of the games and how those work a little bit later. And then also giving schools the opportunity to recognize esports as a legitimate varsity sport beyond just an after-school club that opens up a ton of resources and funding to be allocated for travel, equipment, jerseys, coaching, and treating it as a traditional sport, getting more involvement from the students, more commitment from the parents and the students, and making it a more legitimate experience and engaging an audience that would otherwise be potentially neglected. It also gives them an opportunity to upgrade their computer lab because, as you all are aware, video games are pretty resource intensive. They need better hardware to be able to compete. Gives students a sense of pride when they have cool new hardware to be able to compete on and be able to have equal competition with their competitors, with having souped up GPUs and CPUs. Maybe some cool LEDs to match your school colors, stuff like that could be really exciting for the school and build a lot of morale amongst the involved students, as well as get outside students that are maybe not a part of the club, but to get them involved in terms of participation and viewership. So kind of talked about esports, but I want to talk about who we are and what we are focused on. So HSCL is the largest and longest running competitive gaming organization serving high schools and students and educators. We have over 2,400 schools on our platform competing and over 70,000 students among those 2,400 schools. We provide a competitive platform to which you are engaging and communicating with your opponents, establishing your team rosters, and so on. We offer 4 different tournaments per year based on season, so fall, winter, spring, summer. And we also are a STEM accredited program independent of anything else. So just our offering in schools is STEM accredited, opening them up to grants and additional funding by offering this program. And then scholarships. We pay out, so in our leagues, we pay out between $500 to $1,000 per winner in our competition. Some games have teams of 6, so 6 players that would win in, say, an Overwatch match. All 6 of those players get $1,000 each for a scholarship to go towards their future, and they have the chance to compete 4 times a year, potentially earning up to $4,000 in a single year for their scholarships. No one else offers this level of inclusion and opportunity like us, and that's something that we've been doing since 2012, and something that we're very proud of to offer and extend to the academic community. Also, our platform, so this is essentially what schools are paying for access, is licensing our platform, getting access to it to manage their school, their students, their teams, their matches, their rosters, being able to see who they're playing against, when, be able to look them up, be able to do reconnaissance on kind of how they perform, just like football, you'd watch your highlight reels of your competitor. You would do the exact same here. You can watch them on Twitch and you get to know your opponents. So really exciting opportunity to engage. The platform basically does a lot of the heavy lifting, which a lot of the teachers appreciate, because a lot of teachers kind of feel alone trying to set up an esports program, don't have a community, don't necessarily know how to, who to compete with and how. So depending on what games you want to offer at your school to how many students you have in your program, you'll be able to manage all of that and be able to find fair and equal competition to have fun and engage your students, throughout the entire year, or however long or however many tournaments the school wants to participate in. So why do we feel that we're the best medium to engage this high school audience? It's mainly because our mission is to make esports available to every student as a legitimate varsity level sport in high schools across the nation, and we achieve this by making it easy for faculty and students to get the opportunity to engage in healthy esports competition, surrounded by their peers and supervised by teachers, ultimately getting kids that are in their basements or in their rooms alone out of that environment into an inclusive, supervised environment to which they get to do what they love and have fun, but they're meeting new people, they're doing it in a supervised manner, becoming better digital citizens because of it, kind of making essentially a cheesy way the world a better place when they're playing with each other as opposed to playing by themselves. So I'm not going to read all these things. You guys are going to get access to this deck after the fact, but just some key highlights, as to why HSCL is the most flexible and best option for schools to offer, and why we partnered, with D&H, is because we offer this flexibility for schools, all the way down from our scholarships that we offer our winners, to sending out cool loot crates to our participating schools full of fun swag to help them recruit students to their clubs, to giving the schools the flexibility to choose what games they want to offer. We have on-demand support and customer success teams that are ready to answer calls from teachers that have questions that need to be educated to, talking to principals that need to know, what are the pros and cons of getting, esports set up in their school. So we have a dedicated staff, full-time, focused on just answering questions and being real-time support for, schools trying to start up esports teams, because it's a new space, it's a new area, and a lot of people have questions and they want answers. And so we have dedicated resources, both easy to find online information, but also one click to schedule a call with someone on our team to be able to answer those questions. And we do that all for free. You do not have to be an existing customer to basically get access to all this information that's provided to schools at no cost. Something that's also unique about us is we have a full dedicated curriculum created in partnership with Dr. Christy Cussard and Michael Russell out of Wichita, to basically offer a gaming concepts curriculum that's a full semester-long extracurricular course that basically leverages the concept of gaming, but in a classroom with supervision, and teaches kids how to be a good digital citizen, how to better present themselves and build self-esteem and social emotional learning skills. That is the first of its kind. It is the most popular curriculum downloaded on the Microsoft Education Learning Center, which is very exciting, with a partnership with Microsoft, and continues to pick up steam and popularity. And best of our knowledge, we have well over 1,000 schools trying to get this curriculum approved to be able to offer. So it's taken up by storm, and it helps with kids' engagement. Take something that they love and bring it into the classroom so that they care about what they're coming to school for, and have more of a positive attitude towards what they're doing. From there, in terms of the competition, we always get questions around the length and type of competitions that we have. So across all the different games that we offer, which I'll help to in a second, but we break down our competition right now based on time zones. So right now we have a map of 2,400 schools across the U.S. So we have East Coast, West Coast, and Central, and it's based on time zones, so schools are able to connect at a reasonable time to compete. And this is how we currently operate, but we are setting up custom leagues, both in Minnesota, potentially New York, and other states, where there'll be state-specific, tournaments for the games allowed to, and offered in those states. So that's something else that we're rolling out. So schools have questions around who are they going to compete with. It could be someone in San Diego competing with someone in Seattle, or it could be someone competing in San Diego with someone in San Diego. It just all depends on, what our schools request, and what kind of terms that they need for us. With our platform, it's relatively easy for us to offer those types of solutions. That's something we're really proud of, and that's why a lot of schools choose to work with us, is because we give them that flexibility. That said, people always ask what games do we offer. So we offer the most games to be able to compete in. People from anywhere from rated E, like rated everyone, so like NBA 2K, FIFA, Madden, Rocket League, Minecraft, those are all rated E, as well as Super Smash, to be able to accommodate any audience, whether it be elementary, middle school, or high school. We are, just so you guys know, I don't have this mentioned in the slides, but we are rolling out a platform for fall 2020 to support both middle schools and elementary students. And we can do the Q&A after the fact in terms of how that works. But obviously there's the big elephant in the room, and that's first-person shooters. That's your games like CSGO, or third-person shooters like Fortnite, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Rainbow Six Siege, and Overwatch. Those are rated teen or mature, and what gives us the flexibility is a lot of schools don't have any problems with this, because they realize that teen competitive games like CSGO or Rainbow Six Siege and Overwatch create a team dynamic that is far more valuable in terms of competitive experience, in terms of the communication and collaboration it takes to take your gaming to the next level, and the overall commitment required from the students to be able to compete in those games. And schools realize that, that positive impact it has, considering that there's no factual hard evidence that links video games to any sort of violence at all, outside of, unwarranted, posts or tweets from people. But, the facts are that there is no link to violence, physical violence associated with violent video games. And the schools that pay attention to the facts, realize that and offer what's best for the students. Schools that want to take things slow because there might be disgruntled parents to any degree, we allow them to choose what games are right for them, and still be able to compete against other schools. So if they want to keep things safe and offer, NBA 2K and Rocket League, they can. They don't have to choose, all the games. They could just choose one. They could choose three, and they can have multiple teams for each. So they could have 6 Rocket League teams if they wish, and be able to compete with other schools across the country. So we provide that flexibility that no one else does. So why you guys are all here, I imagine, is because you guys want to, sell equipment bundles and be able to recommend and sell, custom arenas and all kinds of really cool stuff within schools. And this is a great conversation starter to lead to those types of opportunities and sales opportunities for you. And typically what we recommend is these minimums, requirements here. There's all kinds of things you can do to customize these and tweak these to your own heart's desire to best fit what your product offerings are. But ultimately, it comes down to having a pretty powerful tower, or you could do laptops. Laptops some schools prefer and or require, but there's some pretty cool gaming laptops out there available at your disposal that give schools the flexibility to kind of move the rooms in which they compete around. But we found the towers to be a lot more popular and a lot more of a staple that has better morale and overall excitement when they have a physical dedicated room. As far as peripherals, we definitely recommend headsets and mics for communication, as that is a crucial piece to competitive esports. But also gamer keyboards, which tend to be mechanical keyboards, a little clunkier, a little thicker, a little louder, but provide lower latency performance when it comes to pushing down those keys and competing with the competition. And of course, gamer mouses that are rated for lower latency, be able to have and adjust sensitivity and responsiveness, and have multiple different buttons to be able to toggle between different features, functions, of the game. And then at least a 20-inch monitor, but everyone really loves going with the bigger, better monitors, 24 inches or more. 1080, 60 hertz is going to be definitely the minimum that we'd recommend, but you could bump that up to 4K. But if you're going to do 4K monitors, you're definitely going to want the more powerful GPUs and whatnot. So we tend to let you guys be the experts when it comes to recommending what the school should have based on their budget, their space available, and what their needs are. But pretty much the specs list here are going to allow pretty much any of the games that we offer to run at decent settings at least 60 FPS, which is pretty crucial to success in gaming, is having at least a 60 FPS frame rate and 1080p, and that's makes for pretty equal competition. But higher refresh rates, faster frames, can always lead to a slight competitive advantage, especially when you're talking in terms of competition and winning $1,000 scholarships. So we usually see entry-level esports labs costing $10,000 plus to get about 6 PCs is usually the minimum that we recommend when setting up an esports lab. This is a very simple implementation of some PCs we donated to one of our champions last year. This system and the setup, could be around $10,000 to set up and support. And this is kind of the bare minimum. There's obviously way bigger, more robust solutions out there, and you can get as creative and crafty as you'd like, depending on what the school can afford and what they need. From there, I'll skim over this, but essentially we're going to follow up with an additional on-demand presentation probably next week that will basically highlight everything from the school's perspective specifically, so highlighting some of the material I've covered today, but also be at your disposal to hand off to schools to help get them understanding what esports is, what HSEL is, so you can expect those materials in the next week or so. Essentially, it's really easy. It's free to partner with us, and once a school gets set up and gets funding for our platform, they'll be able to manage their team, recruit their team, and compete with other schools. And obviously, they'll need to tap into their IT department to set up certain ports and open up access to certain games to be able to compete. And we provide all that documentation, all that education. Here's a quick highlight of some of the various different schools that have submitted their pictures in terms of how they get together, how they compete, from showing jump jerseys to very basic implementations. So it's exciting to see schools growing. We have schools with 10 kids and some schools with 200 kids in their program, and it's really exciting to see that grow. So one question we always get is how much does it cost? And our pricing for July 1st, moving forward into the fall 2020, kicks off on July 1st, and this is the pricing that will be available through the D&H portal. You will be able to package our software license into any hardware package that you sell using the D&H marketplace. So that's going to be set up sometime in February to be able to offer our SKUs for the 2020, the fall 2020, and future seasons on our platform. So something really exciting to be able to offer, and you guys get a margin as that as well. So this is the retail pricing, but the discounted on the D&H platform to offer a commission and margin for the resellers, but also make it a seamless and easy package for one PO for the school to make it very easy for schools to sign up and get on board. D&H partnership. So why we did this and what's in it for you guys. We're providing and supporting education and material for selling esports into the K-12 marketplace. We're going to be working on some certification documentation to certify some of your sales reps to be able to go in and speak confidently about not just esports, but the competition aspect as well as the equipment. We're going to be deploying the marketplace SKUs and providing any necessary support and questions and be at full disposal to you guys if you guys need us to help you get schools across the line, any data or anything along those lines. We offer a margin, on the sale of our software, and we do all the onboarding. So once you sell it to a school, we'll get a notification and we'll be able to reach out and make sure they're able to set up their accounts, get everything up and going. We still like to make sure you're educated on what that process is in case questions come your way, but ultimately it will be our responsibility to take care of them and hold their hands as they begin to offer esports at their school. So with that said, I want to hand it back over to Keith and Matt to talk a little bit more about D&H, and I'll be sticking around for all the Q&A that you guys have, so feel free to ask questions. I know we covered a lot of material in a short period of time, and there's even more to cover, but hopefully this is a good teaser to get your appetite wet for selling esports into K-12. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. I'm going to turn it over to Matt now and go through the D&H portion.
Thanks, Keith. Why D&H in the equation here? HSEL, the partnership has been wonderful thus far. They're going to be a great partner for us to work with, and you ultimately. But why D&H as far as esports? Obviously, the one thing that we bring to the table is that we have everything and every piece that would be required in the creation of an arena, whether we're talking on a small scale or on a much larger scale implementation. We offer full lines of complete systems along with every manufacturer that's well known within the industry. We also sell all of the pieces, parts, components level 2. So for instance, if the school's lab is wanting to utilize the individual components to build these machines for their use, that is fully available and capable to be done through us as well. We also carry a full line of monitors and displays from multiple manufacturers that would support this initiative, as well as Pro AV. So all of your large format displays, as well as projectors, as it relates to the spectatorship aspect of the esports implementation that you're working on. We also offer a full array of our power management, UPSs, et cetera, along with the networking that's going to be required, switches and such, cabling and such. Services from a solutions perspective here at D&H that we can offer is our partnership with HSEL. We will also end up working on some opportunities utilizing the DAS capabilities, so device as a service, rather than having to actually purchase those pieces and parts. From a other piece that we will be offering is from a service and design. We will have we have a solutions group that can assist with helping spec out when necessary and assist you with the designing of the arena that you are in the process of implementing. From a manufacturer perspective, we have as I said before, all of the partners that are very recognizable within this industry, whether we're talking full complete systems or also the pieces and the parts, the components to build those systems. In addition to that, we have from a Pro AV perspective, again, all the the well-known names as it relates to that. And these partners are all coming on board with us to support us in this initiative, and we have at full disposal their technical support as well to help with the opportunities where you would need further assistance. And very soon off of dnh.com, what will be available to you in an electronic format is we are creating an esports playbook. A lot of the information will be a lot of the information that you've already heard from Jason from HSEL. But in addition, what our goal with this book is to do is to, one, offer awareness. Again, just kind of helping you be able to speak to, what is esports? How to start that league, to, again, help that school to guide them through that process. Enablement, making you guys the experts. That is our main goal here, is to get you up to speed to where you can speak to the school, overcome any potential roadblocks that may be presented or maybe negative perceptions. But again, make you the experts in this along with our partnership with you. Some of the system needs, again, we're targeting predominantly the K through 12 in this particular initiative, but what's really important for you is the refresh rate of 2 to 3 years on average for these. So this is not the typical installation where you may be refreshing every 5, 6, or 8 years, depending on whatever the hardware is, but the refresh rate's much quicker in this realm. And then, of course, helping you and also your customers' needs as it relates to what type of build. Is this going to be a dedicated arena, or is this a repurposed room, or does this have to be something that is set up for gameplay and then actually taken down or utilized for other purposes in addition to gameplay? We can help with that.
Right. One of the things that people seem to overlook is that the Pro AV portion of this is huge. It really allows the resellers to, A, make better margin on the sale, and B, it allows the schools to make some money to fund this, because since it's not sanctioned by most states, they're able to put advertising from local community on that Pro AV setups.
And lastly, from a playbook perspective, we're going to continue to update that, but we want to provide to you all the necessary resources to help you in whatever your needs are. As it relates to some of the dnh.com resources, we have a dedicated esports alias that you can email that we have multiple people are monitoring, so therefore can help you and set up a call with you, and again, walk you through, through that process. We also have our K-12 services, as well as our Pro AV, and then, of course, we have our esports link off of our dnh.com website.
Great. Thanks so much, Matt.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get into the Q&A now. There is a myriad of questions here, so I'm just going to kind of start at the top and roll down. The first one I've got is, will you have gaming furniture available? The answer to that is yes. We have 2 vendors carrying desks and chairs at the moment and are signing more on as we speak. If you do hear of someone that you're interested in, drop an email to the alias and we can definitely look into that for you. That's not a problem at all. Then Jason, one for you. The question is, from Carrie, how does the matchmaking work? Does your interface interact with the games themselves, or do they still have to use the in-game matchmaking to compete with one another?
So how our competition works and how the matchmaking works is essentially when you sign up and you create your account, we use a Swiss tournament format. So every week we reseed the opponents. So high school A will compete with high school B in week 1. And based on the results of that, of who wins, who loses, winners play winners, losers play losers, to make sure competition stays equal and fair as they move through. As far as our integration with the game publishers at this point, we just basically offer the lobby credentials and or the ability for them to create a lobby within the games, the game servers themselves, to be able to compete. And then they come back to the platform to log the results. We are working on a deeper integration with the publishers and hope to have a lot of those features built in and offered for our fall season to make it a more seamless experience, directly with the game publishers. Just unfortunately, given the amount of games we offer, not all of those game publishers offer such API integrations. So we're all working on figuring out how to do that both manually and automatically.
Great, thanks. Hey, and I'm going to follow up with another one for you, Jason. Question here from Darren is, are there plans to support League of Legends?
I was just answering that question. So League of Legends is not available on our platform as of yet. It was available earlier last year. Unfortunately, they decided to go a different route when it comes to high schools, and they want to have more control over it. But we are actively working with them to bring it back to our platform, and we're in open discussions. But as of right now, we currently do not offer it.
Great, thanks. Okay, next one comes in from Jason, and is D&H going to offer package A, B, and C? Is that already put together to offer on a bid?
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to answer that.
Feel free.
We can produce bundles, and we have put some preliminary bundles together. However, my experience, along with Keith, on a lot of the customer calls that we've been on, has been that every one of these seems to be almost a one-off custom deal. So my recommendation or suggestion would be utilizing your D&H sales rep. We will get on in custom bundles for you specifically, the reseller, to meet your requirements that you want to go out to market with. Because again, there are so many variables to this and so many offerings that I do believe that it would be a better approach for us to create maybe a good, better, best bundle that's unique to you specifically. Again, to how you want to approach the market.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Matt. Next question coming up here is, once the equipment is installed and turned over to the school, who typically does the maintenance? Is that left to the integrator through a service contract, or they turn it over to a school employee? That's something we're seeing a lot of different things. Some of the schools are taking care of it, but really it's an opportunity for you as the reseller to be that person doing the service for them. It's, again, an extra way to make some money off this sale. Another one, and this one I'm going to push over towards you a little bit, Jason. Do you have any data on the market opportunity for partners who are promoting esports?
From a standpoint of selling the equipment, or just the esports market as a whole?
I think as a whole.
Okay, so yeah, the esports market in itself is, I think it's over 1.5 billion as of last year. The year prior to that, it was around 900 million. So we're seeing some record growth. It's a massive opportunity, where a majority of those dollars are all being tied specifically to advertising and revenue generated through ad partners and tournaments. But the gaming industry in itself is over $150 billion, and that's from gaming PCs to consoles, video game sales, and more. So I hope that answers your question.
For the next one, I'm actually going to tie two questions together here because they're pretty similar. The one from Jason is, who would typically be the point of contact within a school or school district to reach out to? And then the other part of that, are parent-teacher associations involved?
So who's the point of contact at the school to which engage around esports and equipment? So it really depends on the school and the state and how they function, but we see anything from, specific teachers coming to senior leadership and basically asking for this to be an offering, all the way to superintendents, pushing this down as a directive as to operate esports in the schools. More than not, we see athletic directors and IT directors ultimately being responsible for the follow-through and execution, either at the school or the district level. So some schools think it's an IT director thing, some assign it to the athletic director. There's mixed feelings on both sides because both don't necessarily identify with it, but to this point, that's what we see most frequently, of those two roles getting involved, at the granular level. And then
Jason, if I could ask,
yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, just in your experience thus far, do you find most of the schools are starting sort of from a grassroots movement, meaning it's starting at sort of the student level, and then as it starts to gain popularity, then the teachers or the schools are starting to take over? Or do you find most of the schools thus far have been around? They're the ones initiating the start of the program.
So we're a grassroots organization from the beginning. Most of all of our schools in the early days were onboarded by students being passionate about gaming and wanting to bring it to school, and then raising that awareness to the teachers, and then the teachers going up to principals and administration to get the funding and the proper approvals. However, now we're seeing a shift to where there's so much popularity and so much news in terms of the success that esports is having in schools, that we're now starting to be contacted at the district level and sometimes by the state level to be able to go from a top-down approach. So historically, the majority is still grassroots. There are still a lot of kind of late to join the party type decision makers at the top that are very disconnected from the impact that gaming is having on schools, and decisions being made at the top to not pursue gaming as they don't listen to factual data, and they go off what their gut tells them that gaming is bad when there's evidence that is quite contrary to that. And so positively impacts the schools in every single important metric that they care about. So usually what we found is participating in like the National School Board Association to the computer science teacher associations to various other groups that we are working with and partnering with, the FETC event, and more. We're finding that once we get the evidence in front of them, it's hard for them to really deny it. It's just a matter of how they find out the information and when they find it out, and whether or not they're open-minded to hearing it out. But ultimately, we're starting to see a wave of teachers that were pessimistic towards it. And then, I said more senior management being pessimistic to gaming. And shortly, about a year or so later, a teacher kind of goes rogue and just offers the program under the radar, has massive success, sees the grades go up, sees engagement goes up, popularity goes up around the program. And we've seen principals completely flip-flop and say, I was against this, but wow, was I wrong? And I need to be a part of this, and I need to support this.
Excellent. That's definitely what we're seeing on our side too. As I like to say when I talk to a lot of the resellers, it's kind of the Wild West out there. Everyone's making their own way through this and learning as they go. So it's pretty interesting. Have another one here from Rick, and this is actually a great question. Typically, do the schools have the appropriate network infrastructure to support a gaming lab? Again, that's going to depend on the school, but the majority of them know, and it's just another thing you can add to the solution. That's the one thing at D&H we like the most about this. This isn't okay, you're selling one piece of hardware and walking away. This is a full solution sale, and it's usually from the bottom up where you have to go in and purchase or sell the products. Got another one here. I know it's in its infancy, but do you see, or are you partnered with any transitioning type of entity to higher ed esports? Are the kids using this for targeting certain college teams?
Yes. So I get probably 1 to 2 emails a day from colleges asking to get access to our students for scholarship and recruiting opportunities. We have over 400 colleges that have reached out to be able to scout and identify target potential students to offer scholarships to their esports programs. It is picking up quickly. We're about to announce a partnership with a college recruiting service firm that should be coming out in the next month or so to further enable that and escalate it. But colleges are really excited to be working with us. They're watching our championship matches, identifying top players and reaching out to them. So it's something that we plan to have in fall, a deeper integration with students having the option with parental approval to opt in for college recruiting opportunities and giving college recruiters the ability to access those students.
Great. Before I ask the next question, I'll let you guys know that we just put out some polling questions out there. If you could take some time and go through and answer those the best of your ability, we'd appreciate it. Another question coming along here. How much do we need as a reseller need to know about each game to provide proper support? Or is it something more about understanding the infrastructure and the process of how to best manage the equipment? I really think... Yep, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to speak to the gaming aspect. So we get this question a lot in terms of support for the games specifically. Do we sell the games, licenses to the games? The thing that most people don't realize is the kids already own these games and already have accounts to these games. And kids have to use their personal accounts in order to really continue the operation of the game as it's supposed to happen. So there's not really any knowledge that I would say the resellers would have to have in relation to the games. It's a matter of the schools deciding which games they want to have, whether it's based on ASVR ratings or general interest in the school. But that's something I would say is not too much of a factor when it comes to resellers outside of just having basic knowledge around each individual game, which in this slide deck, once it's passed out, you guys will be able to see all the individual games, the breakdown of each of them, what their ratings are, what platforms they're available on.
Great, perfect. Another question here. Do you have any case studies available for partners to use when approaching new schools considering esports?
Yeah, so we have some basic, guides and, templates that can go out, and we're making those more readily available on our platform, as well as case studies. So those are all in development to kind of service you guys and be able to have those easily deployable and or add your own logos to them to be able to establish that rapport and value to your schools. So those are coming.
Great. Here's another one. It's directed towards you, Jason. Are schools building big screens for the others to watch? I've been to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Do we need something like that?
I would love it.
I can answer that from the D&H side of things.
There's more and more schools wanting to make this less so much of kids playing in one classroom, but making an interactive experience. There's another question that came up in terms of local competition, like traditional, leagues and districts and conferences for like how football works. And there's definitely a future for that, and that's where we see this going once mass adoption comes into play and being able to support that, where kids travel with their gear set up in like the auditorium and compete with a big screen projecting the match with shoutcasters, talking about it just as you have Friday Night Football. So we definitely see that being the future, and we would love for you guys here to be some of the instigators to spark those fires and inspirations with the schools to have those kind of conversations, because that's definitely going to make everything way cooler, way more engaging, and build a lot more morale.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that also, as I mentioned earlier, they're using those for advertising for local businesses to get funding for the esports programs as well. We see that quite often. Here's an interesting one, and this comes up actually a lot for us. Do the schools need to buy multiple copies of the games they're playing, or is that included in the package?
So the games, like I mentioned before, the kids typically already own the games, so they can download the games for free if they already have an account. If the kids do not have an account, or the school's offering a game that none of the kids currently participate in, they're starting something from scratch, the licenses would have to be acquired. Games can be free, or they could be $30 to $60 depending on which game. But currently, we do not sell those directly.
So before we move to the next question, I just wanted to give some initial results on the first poll question. The poll question: are you currently selling esports solutions into K-12? Very interesting. So we've got 20% that are indicating already that they are selling into esports into K-12. 75% of you guys out there currently say no, but are here so you can learn more. And then remaining is 4.3%. So there's going to be a few more poll questions as we proceed forward. So please feel free to continue to answer those. We very, very much appreciate that.
Great. Thanks, Matt. So an interesting one here. Do we have access to watch the championship matches and participate in those opportunities?
So from a spectator perspective, yes. All matches, assuming that all the schools in participation agree to the broadcast, the championship matches will be broadcasted. And we're going to be announcing our championship venue partner in February. So at the end of this spring season, so everything I've been sharing with you guys has been mostly focused on fall, just given the lead times it takes to get schools signed up and onboarded. We're not expecting schools to be up and running with our platform by March, through this distribution. However, if any schools that you're working with want to participate in our spring season, registration's in on March 23rd, and what we're doing to set the precedent for future seasons is live championship match, for nationals, and flying out up to 30 finalists to a destination and having them compete in person, broadcasted live with professional shoutcasters, talking about the performance of the match and highlighting their performance, and making this a really unique experience where they get to meet professional esports players, learn what it's like to be in the day in the life of them, and also meet crew members that support and enable esports as careers. So they get exposed to alternative career opportunities outside of just being the star pro players. As far as advertising and participating in that perspective, I think was the other question. There's options. typically we're open to conversations from a partnership perspective, and we're trying to work with schools to be able to offer advertising opportunities at a local level to their own communities. And so we're trying to enable features and functions that offer that.
Great, thanks. Kind of jumping back to the question about the gaming, if schools allow the students to download the game to a district computer, is that considered piracy? Will there be issues there?
If they download a game to the computer, it's considered piracy? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
So if they're downloading one of the students' games down to a district-owned PC, I think is the question.
So it's not. So how gaming works today, it's different than what it was before. In the past, it was like one game, that was it, one download. Now everything's associated to accounts because you're competing online, so you have to have an online identity associated to your license. So that's what you're doing. You're just associating a license, and most game publishers, you can have up to 3 devices, 4 devices, 5 devices. It doesn't really matter as long as it's you that's logging into that computer. So I can go home, log into my PC and play, and then I can log into the computer at my school and be able to play. There are instances in which students report being blocked or banned due to suspicious IP switching on their accounts. However, it is rare, and usually when the kids submit a ticket saying that they're playing at their school under adult supervision, they get whitelisted. That's something to be aware of if those problems happen.
Sure.
So before we go or proceed forward, another poll question is going to be presented in a moment, asking what are the resources that would be helpful to you all to help with selling the esports solution. So if you could please provide some input on that, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
So going back to the gaming, what you'll find is with a lot of the students, they want to log into their own accounts and use their own game anyway, because that's how they gain points and experience on these different gaming sites. And that's what a lot of the colleges are using to recruit students. So it's important for them to stay under the same name throughout the whole gaming process.
That's correct.
Here's a good one. Have you ever considered expanding to the collegiate level?
For our platform? So there'll be some announcements coming out in the spring that kind of separates HSEL, our league, and our platform. So HSEL is the league entity. We're going to be rolling out middle school esports league, so MSEL, as well as an offering for kids grades 5 through 6. And so what we're ultimately going to be doing is separating HSEL from the technology and the platform in of itself to support alternative, both academic organizations like high schools, but as well as private organizations. And those details will be coming out in the near future. As far as supporting collegiate offerings, that is something that's in the pipeline, but nothing that can be disclosed or talked about at this point.
Great. Another question going back to the individual games. Do most schools have the students create their own Steam accounts in school?
So that's come up.
Or are they using their personals?
It's really up to the school's disclosure and comfort of how they want to offer things. There is one caveat that, resellers should be aware of, in case questions come up from schools. But if you open up the port for Steam, for the school firewall or district firewall, Steam's a big animal and opens up a lot of games and a lot of different, chat and social features all through that one port. So that's some points of concern in terms of offering Steam. And we're working with Rocket League and other Steam-enabled games to separate that login, to have a separate login, because there has been some friction there. But we have seen schools specifically, not necessarily on our platform. Most high schools, they don't have a problem allowing the kids to have their own accounts. But we see middle schools that are kind of in our incubator groups and council groups speak to buying the games for the kids and having their own school accounts just to kind of keep everything visible to an adult, specifically for kids that are under the age of 13. But for high school kids, I would say 95%, if not more, are relying on the students to have their own personal accounts, for the reasons that Keith mentioned a moment ago. Their identity consistent.
Right. Here's a good question that is great for D&H. Who should I contact if I want to quote an esports solution with D&H? Should I go to my sales rep or another team within D&H? Is that one, Matt?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. Who should I contact if I want to quote an esports solution to D&H? Should I go to my sales rep or another group within D&H?
If it's a simple quote, I would absolutely go start with your D&H rep. At that point, they will involve, whether it be Keith or myself, or someone else within the organization, whether it be, say, the Pro AV team or what have you. But I would absolutely say from a quoting perspective, it's to start with your sales rep, and they would stay involved in the process as well. So that would be my recommendation.
Right. Another question here, is there a concern of a saturation point for resellers? The question there is, I'm sure there will be, but at this point it is so wide open. There's so many schools that have not started this process or have not started with esports. I think it's going to be quite a while till we have to really worry about a saturation point there.
Yeah, I would second that. To iterate on that point, I would say probably only about 15 to 20% of our 2,400 schools have dedicated resources and facilities at this point. And a lot of them are asking us, and that's why we partner with D&H, a lot of them are asking us for hardware solutions and ways to basically get the facilities set up to support competitive video gaming esports in their schools. So that's why we're partnering with D&H, so we could reach more and more schools and be able to offer this more seamlessly.
Great, thank you. Let's see if there's any more along here. What about the violent, mature content in video games? Do these concern the parents and the educators?
So there's always going to be, I have a slide specifically for that point. So as I was mentioning before, there is no evidence linking violence, physical violence to violent video games. But it doesn't change the fact that some people, feel certain ways. And, that's why we give schools the flexibility to choose the games that they want to offer. But there's been studies basically tying no relationship or correlation, to violent video games. There's violent imagery. You have the ability to tone down the graphic imagery in a lot of the games in terms of removing blood or certain sound effects from the game to make it less violent in nature. And the other thing to kind of keep in mind is those games in particular, like Overwatch, CSGO, Rainbow Six Siege, they take such a significant commitment of teamwork and collaboration and communication to be victorious in those matches that usually the pros significantly outweigh the cons often those games because kids become more committed. They learn to better communicate with their teammates. They build stronger bonds. They learn more of the full skill set in those types of matches than, say, a Rocket League or NBA or Madden. So that's something that we strongly encourage schools to consider. But to date, there's still a lot of schools that are hesitant that they would do it, but they're scared of specific parents that might cause them a headache or cause a fuss, and it's not worth it to them. And that's why we offer so many games for schools to choose.
Jason, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat a little bit of that because they're getting a lot of people saying that you come through pretty muffled on that version.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my headset died. So what I'm saying is on the violence aspect, there is no linkage between violence and video games. It's been proven in many different studies. However, there's still going to be parents that feel that they don't want their kids exposed to that type of imagery at their age. And if that's the choice of either the schools or the parents, we provide the flexibility for them to offer any game. But the commitment and investment that we see from the kids playing those types of games like CSGO, Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch, is exponential in the benefit to their overall personal development from the teamwork, the collaboration, and the overall skill it takes to be good at those games far outweighs the cons of any kind of violence, which again has never been linked to any kind of physical violence in the real world.
Great, thank you. And I've actually had this question here a few different times. Is there a way to know what schools to target, or is there a way to know what schools are participating in the esports leagues currently?
Well, we do have a cheat sheet. If you do go to hsel.org, we do publicly list on our map pretty much every school we work with. We can't speak to which ones have what, but you can, if you target certain regions or certain areas, you can essentially just look them up on our map and get the names, and you could do your own outbound to those schools. So that's public information. We like to kind of show off the schools that are participating, because one of the biggest referrals to us is when one of a rival school sees that their rival school is on the platform and they're not, and that usually gets them onto the platform. So we usually like to keep that on there.
Yeah, and I would add to that, when we did our internal training here for our inside sales reps, that was one of the things that I brought to their attention, was utilizing that map to do exactly like you said. And we've already had several of our sales reps approach me after the fact to say they found that extremely useful, and so did the the resellers that they had reached out to.
Yeah, it's amazing actually how much detail you can get. You can zoom down into within, inside a school district basically with that map if you use the map on hsel.com, which is really a great way to look at things.
And we update it every week with new schools setting up.
Great. Looking for some more here. How many competitors to HSEL are there out there?
There's a wide variety of different things popping up across the country, whether it be small regions offering just a local competition at like a local LAN center, all the way up to companies trying to offer similar products and solutions to us. You can Google the various different ones, but to date, we're still the longest running, the largest, with the most flexibility and the most to offer to schools, the least amount of restrictions, and the most credibility in the market. But it depends on the school's needs and desires and wants. We are working towards coming and offering a more localized, traditional, format, followed similar to that of football, where kids can compete with their local rivals that they compete with in football. But just due to the saturation required to have that type of opportunity at scale, just isn't there yet. Schools are still kind of learning about this stuff. There's only probably about 10% of high schools that have really kind of invested into this and have dug into it. So the massive growth opportunity ahead of us. But today, I would say we're the most reliable and the easiest to work with, and have someone that you can pick up and call on a moment's notice to answer your questions.
Perfect, thank you. So before we close, on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see the following resources that we have available. There's the D&H and HSEL resources, including HEL's PowerPoint slides, the D&H Esports mini site, HSEL's PDFs to help you pitch esports to your K-12, which I saw lots of requests for during the presentation. And we're going to be releasing additional resources soon, including an esports sales playbook. This recording is going to be posted on demand within 24 hours on dnh.com/dnhtv. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact esports@dnh.com or your sales rep at D&H. You can also hit up the D&H Esports mini site, which is www.dnh.com/esports. In addition, we've got some upcoming broadcasts you guys can all tune into. We've got a K-12 opportunity discussion panel in February on the 6th, and more info is available at dnh.com/dnhtv. And then we have a Solutions Lab webcast on Cisco Duo on February 13th. And that also, you can sign up at dnh.com/solutionslab. So big part here that I think is going to be extremely useful to all of you. In addition to the recording you guys all just heard, there's going to be an on-demand webinar given by HSEL that's going to be set up for you guys to show to your K-12 clients. So you'll be able to take it out to those schools and go through a lot of this information that Jason just went through with you, but tuned more towards the school side. So that should be super helpful for that. And we'll be sending out more details on that in an email coming soon.